What's up, YouTube? It's RCQ prep day, Friday, September 20th? Sounds right. I got an RCQ tomorrow, so playing through a couple little test leagues today. Thought I'd record them for the tube of views. But Dimir FrogTide, been playing the heck out of the deck recently. Absolutely love it. So still trying to nail down some stuff like what exactly I want my sideboard plan to be and a few popular matchups. Basically shuffling around everything for Boros. Like the matchup is ridiculously popular, not only online, but locally as well. So I'm really trying to come out with a sideboard plan that I feel confident in. It doesn't have to be confident that I'm going to win every post board game, but it needs to be confident that I have a specific game plan or a specific set of cards that I'm aiming to find. Whether that be like turn 2 frog into turn 4, 8 Murktide, whatever the case may be. Just some goal to go for post board. In the main deck, I'm trying out a couple Archmage's charms. I know plenty of people have tried out Charm before. I haven't really tested it that much, so I wanted to give it another shot. Cut down to 1 Harbinger of the Sea and 2 Force Negations to accommodate. Only 2 Harbinger in the 75, 1 in the main, 1 in the side. What I have found is a lot of the decks that can get shut off by Harbinger have the ability to fetch around it, and there's going to be some number of games that they just don't. Like you play against Boros and they could fetch a basic mountain, but instead they go get a Surveil land. And I don't really like that idea of my plan being contingent on my opponent fetching in a specific way, which they could choose not to, but they don't. You know what I mean? That's just like a really inconsistent game plan in my mind. So we'll see how that works out. I cut the 3rd Spell Pierce to accommodate the 4th Murktide Regent. I do think 4 is a little heavy, especially without something like Thought Scour or More Considers to help fuel the bin. But I have found myself in a number of games where I just really needed a threat, and adding the 4th Murktide is kind of the natural next step. So we'll see how that plays out. In the sideboard, I cut the 2nd Nihil Spellbomb for the Unlicensed Hearse. And I think that's about the only sideboard change I've made recently. But we'll go ahead and jump into the league, see how it goes. So I will catch you back for round number 1. Okay, here in round number 1, we have won the die roll. Let's get on the play, see what kind of opening hand we've got. Turn 1, probably a Surveil land into turn 2 Frog, turn 3 Harbinger, and we've got our basic swamp. So yeah, we'll keep this. It's a hand that definitely gets a lot worse if we were on the draw. But since we're on the play, we get to be proactive, like looking around with our Surveil land, playing out the frog. If our opponent plays like a cat here, we can go to shoot it. Ragavan, we can also Bowmaster down. Preordain. I'll keep a Preordain. Very well find a use for that later. So am I just going basic island? I don't think I'm going to play the frog in the face of Ragavan, because if my opponent has like a static prison, then I let them just hit me with the Ragavan, get a treasure, and then all of a sudden my my Harbinger is exponentially worse. So let's get down Bowmaster, shoot the monkey. Follow up they got. Okay. Snow Blood Moon, Ocelot Pride. Awesome. So hopefully we can get down this Harbinger here, get our basic swamp, get down Harbinger, and maybe they won't have a basic in hand. So when I talk about like the uncertainty of Harbinger of the Seas against Boros, rude. So rude. Yeah. Uncertainty of Boros is things like, or the uncertainty of Harbinger against Boros is things like this, where you just don't know. Okay. So, do I want to double block the cat and make them sack the raptor? Shoot one of these? Probably my best bet. Yep. They get to make a cat token, but one cat token is a little bit easier to deal with than multiple. Down our frog, pass the turn. Now, if they have a flage on top of this, then they kind of just had it all. They had both of their basics. Yep. Definitely the joy of playing against Boros. We'll get the other basic. I'm just gonna like have to let them shoot the frog. Because I can't save the frog. I can't ditch my entire hand to it. But I can at least shoot the sheriff, the Ocelot Pride, and prevent them from making another token. Hopefully preordain into like a counter spell for this Flage Escape. Another. Okay. Boros. So, just to recap, Ragavan on 1 we dealt with. Turn 2, Amped Raptor into, what was it? Amped Raptor into Ocelot Pride. Turn 3, had the basic mountain, had the bolt for the Harbinger, Goblin Bombardment, so we couldn't double block the Pride. Turn 4, Flage to shoot down the frog. Could have shot the sheriff, the Ocelot Pride, but they had the second Ocelot Pride. Yep. That is how it be. Alright. So I'm finding more and more that I don't want Harbinger in this matchup. I don't mind keeping one Harbinger in, but I'm definitely not boarding in the second. Just like we saw there. And maybe they top deck the mountain. Probably not. But I guess it's possible. Not a big fan of Spell Pierce on the play because by turn 2 you've got just like counter spell. I found Bowmaster less and less good in the matchup. It's like okay into the One Ring, but on the play especially, you've got like turn 2 Frog to stonewall a lot of their turn 1 plays. You don't really need Bowmaster as much. I don't know, it's a lot of trimming, a lot of uncertainty. Because you just never know how your stuff is going to line up against them. I'm terrified to like cut everything or all of something because I feel like I'm going to run into the situation where they just have the thing that I cut out the answer to. So, like, I board out all of my copies of Bowmaster and they just have like 8 1 toughness, 1 drops, and 4 1 rings. Or I cut all of my Force of Negations and I can just never tap out on my turn 3 for like Toxic Deluge because I risk them having a bombardment or something similar. So Psychic Frog into Force Pitch Charm, really good start. So we'll keep this hand. We can Undercity turn 1. Just try to look for like a push, a shoot the sheriff, some piece of interaction. And then hopefully Windmill Slam Frog on 2 and hold up Force for something like a Static Prison. Push, perfect. I guess I don't want to yield just in case they have something I want to force on 1. I don't even know what that would look like. 1 main phase lightning bolt you, force it. But I will say, when you beat energy, this is usually kind of what it looks like. Being on the play, have a frog, protect the frog, get some attacks in, get some cards. Chance to rebuild a little bit. Even better. Now, I'm going to go Watery Grave for the frog. Because if I just like draw basics, I might want a Flooded Strand for an Undercity Sewers. Gotta protect the frog because it's just like the only thing that I've got going on. All right. These can start getting basics. Need to be a little bit careful. All right, so I'm probably going to want to play the Bloodstained Mire so I can get basic Swamp. Because I can't stop them from having a Blood Moon here. But I'm not going to play out the Unlicensed Hearse. Because if they do have a Blood Moon, I kind of want to make them have to think about not using it or not playing it out. You know what I mean? Like, they have to respect me having Counterspell to an extent. Discard the... I don't want to discard the Flooded Strand because I really want the basic. I think I'm just going to fetch Get my basic swamp. Pop the frog and keep attacking. Definitely signals that I have no FrogTide in hand. Pierce is a good pickup. Interact with the One Ring, can interact with a Blood Moon here. Alright, so go after my frog. Gotta protect the frog. Start a Flooded Strand, discard a Spell Snare. Or am I just discarding the push? I'm discarding the snare. I don't have to push the cat token, but wait. Lock in with the frog. First, go ahead and exile the Flage just so they can't immediately escape it without having to pass priority. Then exiling the Ajani, mostly because there's the chance still that they could have like a black splash for Chthonian Nightmare or something. So I kind of want to tag the creatures if possible. Shoot the sheriff. I could just go shoot the lizard, push the cat, attack. I could discard 2 to the frog. Deluge. I think I'm going shoot, push, attack. I'm kind of going off the assumption that if they had a way to answer the frog, they would have used it by now. So we'll push in response to this Thraben Charm. Something else too. Push. Thraben Charm deals 2. Shoot the sheriff, the lizard. Attack. And I want to discard this Deluge, but if they come back, if they end up finding a couple things to do, play out the polluted delta to surveil. If they end up having like a guide into an ocelot or something, then like Deluge is one of my only ways of kind of answering that cleanly. Gaunt to the hand, sure. Sewers. Push. Creature, whatever. In the face with the frog. Murktide Regent. So I could discard Deluge and Sink, or a Deluge and Sink and Push or something. Get a big Murktide online. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on my next card. So not lethal with the frog. I could just play out a Murktide. I really just don't want to tap off of Sink into Stupor, because if they have a 1 ring and they resolve that, then like they can 100% get back into this. But if I can keep them off a 1 ring or anything big this turn, then I could potentially like play and crew the hearse. Play the Murktide, crew the hearse. So Static Prison on my frog. Yeah. Annoying, but it happens. I'll probably like eat some stuff. I need to discard the Deluge here. I don't think I do. 6/6 Murktide's fine. They're going to take my frog. Hopefully they go for the Giganta here. I get to Sink into Stupor the Giganta, untap, play a 6/6 Murktide, crew the hearse, hit them for 6 down to 3. Then I've just got a lethal Murktide. And there's no world in which I can static or Sink into Stupor the Static Prison and it matters, right? Back the frog. Discard, fly. No. Just Sink into Stupor the big dumb elk. Some stuff. Out a Murktide. With a coffin carrier. All right. Static Prison is such a ridiculously efficient card. So now if they do have like Static Prison, land Giganta, and they Static Prison the Murktide, land Giganta, then I could potentially just hit another land and be able to land Deluge for 5, frog, ditch the Fatal Push to the frog, get his power up to 2, crew the hearse, attack. On the draw. Is there anything I saw or didn't see that makes me want to change up my plan on the draw? We didn't see any Ragavans or Ocelots post board. Doesn't mean they don't have them. I do like Spell Pierce a lot better on the draw because you do need to have an answer to like Blood Moon on curve or Goblin Bombardment, stuff like that. Bowmaster is a lot worse on the draw. It doesn't hit the Ocelot, doesn't hit Ragavan. Definitely not bringing Harbinger in on the draw. I want the counter spell back in. I want surgical in. Surgical, I do think, is like a lot better if they show the One Ring. Usually I could look at like boarding a Frog or a Murktide out on the draw. Like Frog on the draw is really, really bad to play into their open mana. I think I'll just bring back in a counter spell. Now it comes down to whether or not I want a surgical on the draw. Surgical over a Murktide on the draw. Surgical is almost exclusively for the One Ring. Like, honestly, if it's not Gorio's, the One Ring is about the only reason I will bring in Surgical. Not a fan of those, like, oh, they're threat light arguments. So you bring in Surgical to deal with their few threats. Fam. Is it trap hand or is this functional? Got 2 lands. I've got a basic island. I have no way of stopping a Blood Moon. I do have a Stern Scolding on 2. So they get their 1 drop. I get to Stern Scolding whatever their 2 drop is. Preordained to try to find a black source for Deluge. Did they keep 7 or go to 6? Kept 7. I think I'm going to keep it. If they go like turn 1 Ocelot, kind of annoying, but fine. If they go turn 1 Guide, that's completely fine. If they go turn 1 Ragavan, it kind of sucks. All right, Watery Grave, really nice pickup there. So let's just go Island Pass. I don't think there's a world where I'm not fatal pushing the Ocelot this turn. Much more interested in Stern Scolding on one of their 2 drops. Guide. Okay. Now, do I just want to fatal push? I could fatal push the Guide right now. So they get 2 Ocelot Pride triggers, but the Ocelot Prides don't grow. Or I can't fatal. Talk about like the one draw that punishes me super hard for playing out the island instead of the watery grave. Single one drop would have been fine, but having a guide into another Ocelot Pride. And they got the basic planes, so now I'm kind of wondering if they've got a Blood Moon in hand already. Obviously, if they do, that sucks for me. All right, sucks slightly less for me. We're going to take a boatload of damage. A world where I want to preordain. I feel like I need to preordain because if I end up, I don't have to like sink into stupor after watery grave plus an attack and pay life is a lot of damage. One, two, three, four, five. They have a land of 6. 7 at end of turn for Ocelot Pride. Have another threat is 8. I think I'm gonna plan on Bowmaster. Man, everything sucks against this deck. Like that Lego song, everything is awesome, but everything is not awesome. Everything is terrifying. Just go for the Bowmaster, shoot the Pride, and see if we can kind of like bait them into a Blood Moon. Did I get to Force of Negation? Okay, that is exponentially better for me than a Blood Moon. I feel like I dodged such a bullet. Play out the frog here. Like, I want both of these. If I play out the frog, I don't get to hold up Force of Negation. How bad is that from? Okay, so let's think. I was tapped out on turn 3, and they didn't cast a Blood Moon. After Guide, Ocelot, Ocelot. They didn't cast a Goblin Bombardment. There's probably a reasonable chance that they've got either a Static Prison or a One Ring in hand. So part of me wants to respect those. Yeah, like if they resolve a One Ring here, I'm just never winning this game. Their guide of souls. Okay. This deck always has this innate ability to just take like every line you're terrified of, every line that you think is going to wreck your entire world, and just saying like, ha ha ha, I've got nothing like that. Like, oh, if they have a one ring, I just lose on the spot. Guess who doesn't have a one ring? Them. Or they were playing around Spell Pierce, and they do have it. Or this is just Giganta. Hasty Giganta. Okay. Particularly care about that. So I'm probably deluging next turn. Just take 5. No, I want to get Bowmaster down. Not Bowmaster, Murktide down. Got so many like thoughts of what I want to do these turns going through my head. All right, so if I go ditch Deluge, play out a 7/7 Murktide, ditch just so much to think about. Ditch 4 Bolton Deluge, but then I can't draw. I can't draw a card because Frog would be a 0/0 or something. I can Deluge just to kill off the Guide and the Raptor. The Shockin. Deluge for 2. Discard. Discard. Hit them for 1. Get to keep Force of Negation and Murktide. I'd go down 3, 4, 5, 10. I think I'm probably better off just attacking and like playing out Murktide. Discard one of these Deluges. Out of Murktide. Say go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Draw for turn is 6. So 8, 13. Would have been lethal without the Ocelot Pride, which is really funny. So this has got to scream that their last card is a Bolt or a Discharge, right? So if I go ditch Deluge, Force, Fling. Exile the 3. FrogTide grows to a 10/10. We got Force for the next thing. Frog grows to a 5. What if I ditch? Yeah, like I can't discard Force and blue card in case their last card is a way to kill off my FrogTide. I take 7, go to 10. That means I'm shocking in sync. Going to 7. Deluge for 2. Go to 5. I guess that's kind of okay. I just can't attack. I'm going to take it. Deluge for 2. And I can't attack because I risk Arena of Glory just hasting up something stupid like an Amped Raptor and dying to that. Have to block, discard, Pierce, discard, Fling. See if we were right on our prediction that their last card or one of their last two is like a bolt or a discharge. Magebane's fine. Oh, it wasn't. Oh. Shows what I know. Okay, so attacking with just the FrogTide. I do have lethal next turn. Hold up Force Negation for like a Static Prison or really care about Discharge. Curse. Flooded Strand. Force. Exile Hurts Flooded Strand. Force. And Naya. Ooh, what a match. What a match. All right. Love to see it. We'll be back for round number 2. Okay, back with round number 2. We are on the draw. Opponent has not revealed a Giganta this time. Pretty good hand on the draw. We've got some early interaction. We could potentially get a Surveil land. I would really love to see a Frog in my opening hand, but unfortunately, it doesn't always work out that way. It looks like we're up against Gorios. Not Gorios. Recruiter of the Guard. Definitely one of the hits from like MH3 that never really jumped up in popularity. So when Recruiter of the Guard enters, you may search your library for a creature card with toughness 2 or less. Reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. I'd say humans staple, I guess. People are still playing humans, which it looks like someone is. Unless they're recruiter to go get Frog in their Goryo's deck. Because it does not get Philology Archaeologist. Stoneforge Mystic. We'll spell snare Stoneforge. Generally, your rule of thumb with cards like Spell Snare versus Fatal Push is try to counter the 2-for-1s. Don't care so much about trading like with the 1-for-1s, but Satoru the Infiltrator. Whenever it and or one or more other token creatures you control enter, if none of them are cast or no mana was spent to cast them, draw a card. Okay, so this is like one of the humans builds with what's it called? Blink, dude, Norin the Wary? Maybe? Maybe not. Alright, well that's kind of hot. Never mind. No idea what's going on. Did not expect Ephemerate there. Was not on my bingo card, not on my radar anywhere. We're just passing. Maybe like Bowmaster, just start making a token. Or if they're just gonna like Bowmaster me back. I was joking about the whole Recruiter of the Guard for Psychic Frog thing. Maybe that wasn't clear, but I was not being serious. Pass the turn. I really wonder if this is... No, they got Stoneforge Mystic. There's no way this is actually like a Goryo's list. Right? Right? Yeah, I'm right. Back with both. Gonna give the Frog flying. So let's go block the army on the Satoru thing. Oh, it's got Menace. No wonder. All right, so let's go No blocks then. 4 damage. Flash in an Orcish Bowmaster. Draw a card. We're going to attempt to kill off this thing. To ephemerate it again. Heal. You'd like to draw a card, you say. Fruiter, Flicker Wisp. So they're going to try to Flicker Wisp my token. I don't particularly care for that. Let's counterspell a Flicker Wisp. Preordain. Got 4, drawing up to 5 cards. So the frog can get up to a 7/7. They've got an Ephemerate coming off Suspend. Kind of don't think I want to preordain. I think I just want to sit on Archmage's Charm and Cling to Dust. Maybe I do want to preordain. I guess if I find a Fatal Push or Shoot the Sheriff, that's pretty good. Frog. You got a Force. Nope. Well then, sorry, Frog. An Ephemerate, no targets. Frog, numero 2. All right. Well, if they had shown us something we could have clinged, then we absolutely could have clinged and dusted into something. Or if they had shown us something we could have forced, could have clinged and dusted into it. Aldra and draw a card. Okay. Their spell's pretty decent. And with a big old army token. That's the turn. And it's got Stoneforge for a Cryptic Coat. So they might be thinking of like using this as an infinite chump blocker. Stoneforge in the Cryptic Coat and then block and bounce it. Soul Herder. Counterspell that. Can't really attack. I say they can't attack. I don't know anything, so. A lot of bowmen. A lot of bowmeisters. What happens if I attack all out? Attack. They Stoneforge to put in the Cryptic Coat. We steal the Cryptic Coat. go. They can't block and put in the coat. So I guess what I should have said is they can't block, put in the coat, and have the coat block. Like they're going to lose something if they block like this. And I'm kind of okay with them losing a stone forge. Still think I am going to just steal the cryptic coat. Ward 1, Ward 2. Oh, God. Well, scratch that plan. Danger, danger, Will Robinson. Ward 2. I could have sworn these were Ward 1. Unless this specifies against Ward 2. No, it's just cloak. So many face down card mechanics. Force of negation. I shot Sheriff, but I did not shoot the psychic frog. Shoot the psychic frog. Alright, opponent. Can't draw cards. Got a 7/7 army token. Okay. No longer have a 7/7 army token. Preordain. On a psychic frog. Gives me something to do with my mana this turn. Got Cling to Dust to potentially draw another card. All right, so they didn't just like snap, go through their turn. So I'm kind of assuming that whatever they drew was an actual spell. I don't know what that spell would have been. Like, if this is or one or more other non-token creatures you control enter, or cast. They can't like ephemerate this, or they draw a card and die to the Bowmaster. So they're going to draw a card. This Bowmaster is going to shoot them And at the end of the turn, I get back my other Bowmaster that's going to shoot them. You see Skyclave apparition in the graveyard, so that's a good one to know about. Definitely want Stern Scoldings for all of the ETB ability dudes. Looks like they can play around Harbinger pretty well, so I think I'm going to board that out. Toxic Deluge is fine. Might bring in Spellbomb for Psychic Frog shenanigans. Mystical Dispute's probably decent. We saw Frog. We saw Satoru. Force looks really bad, especially since we saw Aether Vial. Like, Aether Vial in their deck. Not very good for Force. Do I want Consign for ETB abilities? We saw Flicker Wisp. We saw Skyclave. Soul Herder. All get hit with Consign. I'm not sure I have enough to board out. So I think I'll like leave the two main deck consigns in and just not bring in the third. If I sold Solitude, they probably have Solitude in their 75, right? Since they can get it off of, what's it called? The Tutor. Really good with Ephemerate. Gotta assume it's in their deck somewhere. Back Street keeps lying on top. We're gonna Dark Slick Shores, save the fetches for Undercity Sewers. A Spell Snare something here, who knows? Come on. Push, good pickup. Soul Herder. Hardly know her. Clever. Undercity Sewers, see what's on top. Keep a Mystical Dispute. It's like a reasonable answer to another Soul Herder or a Psychic Frog or something. It's like vaguely better than the average top deck. You. Okay, now do I want to play out a 4/4 Merfolk? Or do I want to not play out a 4/4 Merfolk? So if I play out Merfolk, I've got Consign plus one other spell, so I can hit like an ETB, exile your Merfolk. I think I will. know it's not a big Murktide, but I'm kind of thinking with effects like Flicker Wisp and whatnot that they probably have a reasonable chance of just like resetting my Murktide at some point. So I kind of like the idea of just starting to swing. Path to Exile in the year of our Lord 2024. What a time to be alive. Oh, spell snare. Actually, I think I'm going to not consign, Mystical Dispute, because I'm getting to the point where if they hit a 5th land and just play like a frog, then Mystical Dispute's dead anyway. So, ah, got him. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Shock in. Play a 5/5 Murktide. You know what? It worked so well the first time that I think I'm a glutton for punishment. I knew they had Solitude somewhere. Show me a counter spell. Could be. Could be. Let's keep the Murktide, draw into the dispute. So if they have another Solitude and they're looking to hard cast it, I can Mystical Dispute it. And if they have an Ephemerate instead of a Solitude, then I can just hold on to the second Murktide. I kind of don't want to commit the second Murktide until I know they don't have an Ephemerate or I find a counter spell. Sometimes a good plan comes together. Counterspell off the top. Counterspell off the top. Off the toppest of ropes. Now we cry if they have an Ephemerate. Up to like 47 life, but cry. We are the champions, my friend. I'll see y'all back in round number 3. All right. 2-0, back with round number 3. Hand on the draw. Let's see. Opponent reveals a Gigantha, so I'm assuming energy. You have a spell snare for a turn 2 play into a frog. I don't hate it if their turn 1 is pretty low key, so I think I'm going to keep it. There's always a chance that it's like Storm instead of. Oh my god, it actually is Storm. Okay. Surprised myself there. Somebody on one of my YouTube comments said something recently about like, oh, we're in a, what was it? I hate misquoting, like paraphrasing, just, I hate that we have to like play cards, main deck and stuff, especially for Boros. And I was like, I get it. This. I was like, I get it, but at the same time, when Boros is like over 20% of the meta, or I lump Boros and Mardu together, which I think is fair for the most part. When these decks are like over 25% of the meta, according to Goldfish, and they're showing up at a higher rate of like top 8s and stuff like that, the number of tournaments I go through where I just what? All right. The number of tournaments I go through where I just face Boros like 4 out of 5 rounds of a league, or jump into a challenge and play 7 rounds and see Boros 5 times, Boros/Mardu, is kind of insane. So like, I don't blame anybody in the slightest for going overkill on their Boros hate if they can afford to. So what do we see? We saw Commercial District, Basic Forest, Amped Raptor. And I'm assuming a hand of like red removal spells and a second, maybe no second red source. So they probably couldn't kill my frog. If it's Gruul Energy, like one of the Gruul Prowess energy builds, I'm really surprised to see Basic Forest. So I'm kind of assuming it's not a Prowess build. But if it's not a Prowess build, what do I think that it is? Maybe something with like Renin 6. I just can't imagine a Prowess build hitting their second land drop and just like scooping. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna board like kind of minimally. I think there's some more stuff. Like I could bring in Hearse, maybe Spellbomb, maybe the other Deluge or something, and not feel bad about those bring-ins if it's most like green-red, mid-range style decks. Maybe it's a Delirium focus deck. But I really don't know. I don't really want to overboard and then just like get run over by something. Well, I wish this Undercity Sewers was like another fetch. But what can you do? See if they start with something a little faster this time. Okay, Naya. So We saw Amped Raptor. Really weird to see basic Forest still. Let me take a look at the deck list that just like top forward one of the challenges. There was a Naya energy deck that top forward one of the challenges with like a Goblin Bombardment, Safi, Eric's daughter, and it's like some of the rebuy effects, like Renegade Rallier and the white one that gets back a 2-drop or less. It's like a cool Naya energy combo deck. Find that. Not Naya Escape Shift, not Naya Burn. Just going to be up with like the red-white energy decks. What's this deck? MTG Naya energy combo. Like my land and pass. But yeah, it was using like the energy base guide Ocelot Pride of Johnny Amped Raptor. But the one I was looking at that top for the challenge, I think was not running Flage. It was not running the One Ring. Yeah, this one. So Johnny Amped Raptor, Pride Guide, Ragavan, Safi, Extraction Specialist, Renegade Rallier. Not running Flage, not running the One Ring. I don't know if this is the same build or not. But since I did see Basic Forest game 1, I'm going to assume that they don't have Blood Moon. A little bit of this energy production. Maybe get like Veil of Summered. Like, I might legitimately cry if I get Veil of Summered out of Naya energy. Like, a deck that just runs over deck that just runs over blue-black decks like nobody's business. If they're out here running Veil of Summer, then there's just like no hope for the rest of us. Basic Swamp. Oh man. So like I cannot express to you how much I hate this Basic Swamp in this deck. But it's like a necessity. You really can't get away from it. Which also sucks. Like, if you want to run Harbinger, you have to run the Swamp. If you can get away from Harbinger, you can afford to not run the Swamp, but it's definitely not resolving. All right. I think I group lag. Okay. Yeah, so it was the Naya energy list with birthing ritual. Um, let's see if the one before I cut out and go to the next one. So it was Martin Dominguez's list. So the original was running a forest. Fair enough. Well, this seems this build right here, this Naya energy shell seems a lot better for us to like run up against with Dimir than the other shells. Oh my god, looking through the list, this is so much better for us. Like, no static prisons in the 75. Birthing ritual is annoying, but no static prison, no chain to the rocks, no one ring, no flage. Like, yeah, let's do this. We can stop Renegade Rallier and Extraction Specialist with Unlicensed Hearse. If you get a big early onslaught, you can Toxic Deluge a little more reliably without having to worry about a follow-up ring or something. Only 3 discharges. Okay, yeah, let's run into this one all the time. But good 3-0 start. Catch you back for round number 4. All right, back with round number 4 on the play. And before we hop into our opening hand, remember, if you're liking the video, liking the commentary, feel free to leave a like and subscription. Doesn't cost you anything, but definitely helps to support the channel. As always, links down below for the deck list, Twitch in case you want to catch a live stream, Twitter, first place it gets updated, and Discord. If you want to come join the Control Freak Discord, talk all things shadow, non-shadow, everything else, we'd love to have you over there. Pretty good opening hand on the play. We've got a turn 1, probably a Surveil land. Could maybe Fatal Push, but I like leading on the Surveil land here since I don't know what I'm up against yet. I don't really want to preordain. Is it a Dimir? I'm going to assume Dimir until proven otherwise. So Spell Snare is pretty good. For the most part, I'm just looking to hit land drops at this point. We'll go for the preordain, see what opponent says about that. Island, another preordain. Look to maybe Spell Snare a frog. It could be like Goryo's. Definitely the mirror. Definitely the mirror. Thought Scour kind of gives that away pretty easy. Full Spell Snare. I could go for the Fatal Push. Usually I like being a little more reactive in those spots. Keep my kind of proactive answer for later. Consign to Memory. This is like one of the few matches that Consign to Memory basically does nothing. So I'm kind of glad to get it out of the way. Subtlety is nice. I guess I don't want to auto yield because there's always a chance I want to just discard this Fatal Push. So they could play a 5/5 Murktide, 6/6 Murktide. Looks like that's what they're... Oh, no, Frog. Okay. You get a frog, and you get a frog, and you get a frog. Everybody gets a frog. But who's going to be the first to play a Merfolk? That's the real question. Could be a Merfolk with a counterspell backup. 1, 2, 3, 4. Surveil. To the bottom. Nice. All right. If you got an answer for frog attack. Master. Master shoot me. Sure. And I just like ditching preordained, playing out the Merfolk here because they can't counterspell it. So yeah, let's do that. Ditch preordain. Play out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Play out Merfolk. They go. Yay! I was gonna say they could have like a shoot the sheriff here, which would be pretty solid. But if they don't have a shoot the sheriff and they don't have another Merfolk, which it kind of feels like their hand is a couple counter spells, maybe another Bowmaster, something like that. If they had to shoot the sheriff, they probably would have used it on the frog already. But because they didn't, I'm kind of assuming that's not in the picture. So we got Spellbomb, Unlicensed Hearse, couple Stern Scolding, couple Mystical Dispute, Consign's a free cut, Harbinger's a free cut. Last couple spots, Spell Pierce isn't the greatest thing in the world. Force is decent. I don't actually hate trimming a Merfolk. Like, if they're also bringing in spell bombs and hearse, there's a chance that mine get dead pretty quickly. Spell Pierce is like okay in the counter war. Actually, not a big Bowmaster fan in this matchup. Like, I think more often than not, Bowmaster wars just kind of come down to playing a bunch of dirtly dudes on the ground. Like, you really don't draw that much in the deck. I'm on the draw, so I could trim a frog on the draw. Worse. Really just considering... Oh, wait, I get to keep 3 more cards in. What am I doing? Oboe. Just literally can't count, apparently. The stuff in that I want. Yeah. I'm going to get so many people watching the video like, you idiot, you don't have to board out more cards. On the draw, full push, mystical dispute, counterspell. Yeah. Let's do it. Nothing to it but to do it. Lead on the flooded strand, so if they play a frog or something, I can fatal push. If they don't, I can just go get a surveil land. I do think the Dimir mirror is like really, really fun. I do feel like I have a pretty good win rate in it too. Theoretically, it should be 50-50, but I think one of the things that kind of separates the Dimir mirror is understanding what actually matters and what doesn't. Like, Bowmasters is cool to flash in. The card doesn't actually matter. Like, I don't think I have ever seen Bowmasters actually swing the mirror one way or the other, which is crazy to think about. Like, in a situation like this, you take your extra point of damage more often than not, but again, it doesn't really matter. Because if they untap and just slam a Murktide, I could just lose because of that. Or they untap and play a frog, and life is great. No third land drop. Love to see that. We get to attack in, and we'll just pass the turn, holding up Fatal Push and Mystical Dispute. Do hit their land drop. You have the Murktide, so there's a good chance they've got a Spell Snare. They could have a Mystical Dispute of their own, but fair. Rude but fair. Very rude. Not very mindful. Not very demure. Part of me wants to save this frog. Part of me wants to just like let it go. I'm gonna let it go. I feel like there's just so good of a chance of like my counter getting countered. Shoot him in the face. Try to speed up the clock. Go ahead and go fetch out our basic island. Tapped Undercity Sewers. See if we surveil into something we care about. That is not something we care about. So we're passing the turn. Take a big old chunk of damage here. Means we need our top deck to be like a Shoot the Sheriff or a Murktide of our own, Frog. I was probably supposed to just Archmage's Charm them there and try to get the extra counters or get the extra kill off the Bowmaster counters. I guess I can do it on their upkeep, right? Or if they like crack the fetch. I'd like you to draw 2. If this works, this will be the funniest way I've ever won the mirror. And this is even better because they can't crack Bloodstained Mire for a black or for a blue, and they can't force a negation on their turn. So even if they go get a swamp to kill one of my Bowmasters, they still draw 2 and die to the other Bowmaster triggers. This is hilarious. Please have a swamp and a push for one of these Bowmasters. Yes. Yes. Yes, Queen. Yes. That was great. I don't know how I'm going to make that moment into the thumbnail of the video, but I'm all for it. But yeah, nice little 4-0 start. Let's, guess, come back for round number 5. Hang out till then. All right, we're back with round number 5, our trophy match. On the draw against an unknown opponent who has kept 7. 1 lander, no black mana. Do have Spell Snare, so like one of our better cards on the draw. But no cantrip. Ways off of Harbinger, ways off of Murktide. So let's ship this away. Pretty reasonable 6. Now we have to decide, do we want to keep Archmage's Charm to try to catch back up? Consign could be a pretty good pitch to force. We could throw the Murktide back because we're a ways away from that. So I think I'm going to keep, and I think I am going to throw back the Murktide. Might be a risky play. Kind of hoping we make it through these first couple turns, and then maybe we can like consign. I really want to just force this. I'm assuming this is Merfolk. Yeah, I think I am. Force is like likely to be dead after this anyway. If it's Merfolk, then there's a really good chance that Consign to Memory is dead outside of like a ETB ability. And since they led on this Sink into Stupor, maybe there's a chance that they don't have another land. Gonna hold on to this fatal push. If they play like a Sphiolin here on 3, then I probably want to push it. There's a pretty good chance we end up Archmage's Charm stealing this Aether Vial. Sounds really, really funny to say, but like you gotta do what you gotta do, right? No attack with the Tide Shaper. Keep the Preordain. I don't know what I think about that no Tide Shaper attack. No, I'm kind of gonna base whether or not I take this Aether Vial off of if they cast anything into the like Spell Snare this turn. For the sake of tapping it. Fair. I would love to use Aether. You don't say. You don't say. Okay. Okay. We're doing stuff and things. I'm here for it. Lord Dispel Snare. Do it. You know you want to attack. You know you want to attack. You got to get the game over with. You got to get the game over with. Feels so bad to discard a fatal push, but like free block there. I will not be ticking Aether Vial up to some ungodly number, unfortunately. I really like keeping this Aether Vial on 2 in case they like bounce my frog. I can vial it back in. Yep. Kill off the master. I will let him hit me for 2, unfortunately. I'm not taking you up. So I could double ditch the watery graves, hit them for 5 in the air or 4 in the air. I could just attack, try to eat the silver gill. I don't mind that actually. I'm just going to attack and try to trade, or not trade, but eat the silver gill. Okay. We'll play one of these tap past the turn. We've got Spell Snare for another Lord. Putting C's is fine. Oh, I do think I will shoot the sheriff something. Fair enough. You know, just how we drew it up. Just how we drew it up. Steal their vial, vial in a frog. Laugh maniacally. Oh, Deluge is coming in. It's always such a tough matchup because, like, Harbinger's definitely coming out. You can't board out all of your counter spells as much as you want to. You physically can't. You don't have enough stuff in the sideboard to bring in. So you have to take into account like which counter spells are slightly better, which ones are slightly worse, which ones are slightly worse in certain situations. Like, what's the breakdown here? And Archmage's Charm is like your best one because it can just draw cards. Stern Scolding's decent because it does hit all of their creatures if they don't have a Cavern of Souls. Force can hit Aether Vial. Counter spells a little meh, especially slow on the draw. Mystical Dispute can hit all their creatures if they don't have a vial. So it's a lot of like, well, if they don't have a vial, some of this stuff looks a lot better. Consign can hit ETB abilities. It's not great, but on the draw, might as well like leave something in. On the play, probably bring in Spell Pierce over Consign. Try to hit Vial. I guess Consign is actually probably still better than Spell Pierce on the play. Since you can hit Vial on one, or if they hit an ETB ability later, you can hit that. Can't keep this in a million years. If I don't have an answer to Vial, like if I don't have a force of negation in hand, then I need to lean into a hand that does something proactive. Got basic Swamp for Harbinger. I don't want to keep Stern Scolding. I might just... Am I ditching Preordain? But turn one Preordain into Frog could be really good. I'm just going to ditch the Bowmasters. See what they do on one. Are they mold to 5? Mold to 5 with no Vial. Love to see that. Play out our Flooded Strands. They can't tap it down with Dockhand. Yeah. I do think I'm going to counter this just to keep stuff off the board. Dockhand down my island. Got it. No island for me. No Dark Slick Shores for me. so Tide Shapers +1/+1. If it am I just taking the 2-for-1 off Deluge? I think I am, since I've got double Deluge. We'll just let the Tide Shaper come down. Yeah. That is an island. Hopefully I can find another land here. Okay. So we can Deluge and just swipe up what's going on, which I think is perfectly reasonable. I could preordain and try to high roll another land, but that seems like a little greedy. If they got like a flare, they have to sack something to counter it, so that's okay. Well, an okay one. Let's try to find another land. Murktide's a pretty good draw here. I don't think we're in a bad spot by any stretch. Okay. So option number 1 is play out Sink as a land, cast Murktide, hold up Stern Scolding. Be a 6/6 Murktide. We get the first attack in, so we are winning that race. Option number 2 is Sink the Harbinger. It all like depends on if they have a Flare of Denial, right? If they have another Flare, then I'd rather just play out the Merc. No. Let's pass and go for the Sink. There are plenty of ways this goes like horribly, horribly wrong for me. Way number 1. You have they've got to have a Flare, right? Just like screaming Flare of Denial. This is just screaming Flare to me so much. Like if I cast out the Murktide and they Flare it, I have to sack the Tide Shaper. They hit me for 2. Or they just have a Lord. that. All right. Me for a chunk. Untap black source. So if I sink the Harbinger, I have to, like, in combat, sink the Harbinger, fatal push the Tide Shaper. Sink. It'll push the Tide Shaper. You play the Harbinger, yep. Got a little bit of life gain off this Cling to Dust. Okay, Archmage's Charm. Really, really good. So I want to do this on their turn, so I've got Force up. But I think I'm just going to go, like, Cling to gain 3, Archmage's Charm to draw 3. Skip through attacks again. Oh, they're scared of Bowmaster. They're scared of Bowmaster. You love to see that. Tidebinder. I shot the sheriff, but I did not shoot the deputy. We want to just go shoot the sheriff on the Harbinger. Want a deluge. I want to do, like, something plus. I would like to do something plus Murktide. So if I go shoot the sheriff on the Harbinger, Murktide, I'm dead to a Lord. I think I have to just pass, try to, like, Bowmaster or something. That way I can shoot the sheriff. Everything sucks. Everything is awful. It sucks when you don't know what to do. It's a Lego movie again. I'd really like to go King the Harbinger, block the Harbinger with the token, and just throw the Bowmaster in front of the Tidebinder. Have to force this, right? I will Bowmaster ping down the Tidebinder. Now I can attack with something. Bowmaster buddy under the bus. Lay out a chunky Merfolk for 5, big enough to hopefully kill in 2 shots. Hold up Consign for an ETB, shoot the Sheriff for like a Lord if they want to go Lord, fire up Mutavault or something. I can shoot the Sheriff, the Lord, block the Mutavault with the FrogTide. That would be best case scenario. Or we're just Dimir Merc gods. Love to see it. Really awesome league there. So that was what, 5-0, 10-1. We lost game 1 to Boros Energy and didn't lose another game after that. Really, really sweet league. Highlights involve stealing. All right, so first off, Archmage's Charm won us 2 games there that we can directly point to. We got to steal that Aether Vial against Merfolk and Violent a Frog, and we got to Archmage's Charm our Dimir opponent, make them draw 2 with double Bowmaster on board. Ended up being lethal. So really, really good showing from Archmage's Charm. We got to draw 2 once, but regardless, really happy with that. Harbinger of the Seas. I don't think we locked anybody out. We only played Harbinger once against our very first Boros opponent, and they had the basic mountain to immediately bolt it. So kind of less excited about Harbinger than I have been recently. I might end up just moving the other one to the sideboard, like moving the one in the main to the side and adding like maybe a Stern Scolding in its place and a Deluge, something like that. But I might mess around with that spot. The 4 FrogTide, there were several times that we saw multiple FrogTide that we didn't really want multiple FrogTides. It wasn't always bad. It's just like that spot could have been, I don't know what it would have been against the Esper Humans Solitude style deck. I do think that one closed out the game, but we saw multiples there against Merfolk at the end and just had to like ditch one to a force negation. But that FrogTide could have just been another force. So, I don't know. Not sold on the 4th FrogTide, especially if you're running Archmage's Charm. Like, more ways to draw cards feels like you need less FrogTides in the deck. I know it's kind of self-explanatory, but you get the idea. But the 2 consigns could also be Thought Scours. We have seen some FrogTide players running Thought Scour. So that could be an idea if you want to keep the 4 FrogTide in. But I have been kind of liking the main deck Consign to Memories. Didn't see Tron, so we didn't need Break the Ice. Didn't see a bunch of surgical matchups. Didn't see any Harbinger of the Seas matchups outside of Boros if you want it, but we've kind of gone over that at length at this point. Yeah, I don't know. I think the deck is really close to being what I think would be optimal. When Duskmourn drops, I will be trying the new blue-black land, the one that taps for blue and then taps for black if you control an island or a swamp in place of Darkslick Shores. I think there's a lot of times that after turn 3, you want an untapped land to like FrogTide plus counter or something. And Darkslick Shores coming in tapped has been a liability in those spots. Want to find a replacement for the swamp. Maybe if I cut Harbinger, then that'll be enough of a reason to not run the swamp. But until then, we're kind of stuck with it. What else? What else? What else? What else? I don't know. I think that's about it. Like the deck, like the league, like the matchup spread. As always, if you enjoy the video, consider checking out more. But yeah, I hope everybody has a fantastic rest of your day. Stay safe. Enjoy some good food and company. I will catch y'all back live later. Adios for now.